trip was over. The app said the trip was over, but the passenger refused to leave. This is what happened next. The year was 2020. The world felt strange, and I was just trying to make it work. My retail job was gone, so I started driving for Uber to pay the bills. Late nights were the norm, and I saw all kinds of people. The loud ones, the quiet ones, the ones who had a little too much to drink. But nothing. Nothing compares to what happened on one specific Friday night in October. It was just after midnight. I had just dropped someone off, and my phone buzzed almost immediately with a new request. The pickup was at a bowling alley 6 minutes away. Simple. The name was Derek. I accepted and started driving. The place was dead quiet when I got there. Just a few dim lights in the parking lot and the closed-up building. But there he was, standing alone under a light, a tall guy in a gray hoodie, his head down like he was looking at his shoes. He looked up as I pulled over, but he didn't wave, didn't move. I rolled down the window. "You Derek?" He just gave a slow nod and then got in the back seat behind me. The ride started, and I asked him if the address in the app was correct. It was about 20 minutes away, in a part of a town I didn't know at all. "Yeah, that's right," he said. His voice was flat, empty. I remember thinking he sounded off. Not drunk, just completely emotionless. I didn't push it. For the next 5 minutes, it was dead silence. I glanced in the rearview mirror, and every time I did, he was staring straight ahead. Not out the window, not at his phone, just at the back of my head. The silence was heavy. I tried to break it. "Rough night?" I asked. He paused. "Just needed to get out of there." "Out of where?" "Doesn't matter." "Okay." I got the message. I left him alone. We drove for another 15 minutes, and I started to feel this weird tension in the car. It was almost a physical thing. I noticed we were getting into a really isolated area. No streetlights, huge yards, and trees everywhere. The hair on my arms was standing up. As we neared the address, he suddenly leaned forward. "Actually, can you pull into that driveway right there?" He pointed to a house on the right. It was dark, no lights on, not a single one. It looked abandoned, with an overgrown lawn and peeling paint. There wasn't a car in the driveway either. "Is this your place?" I asked. His voice was a cold command. "Just pull in." I hesitated for a second, but I did it. I pulled into the driveway and put the car in park. He didn't move. He just stared at the front door. "Everything all right?" I asked. He got out of the car, his eyes still fixed on the house. "Wait here." He didn't go to the front door. He walked around the side of the building and disappeared into the shadows. I sat there for maybe 2 minutes, my heart pounding. My gut was screaming at me that something was wrong, that he wasn't just heading inside to grab something. Finally, I ended the ride manually and started to back out. But before I could even shift into reverse, I saw him walking back. Fast. His hands were empty, and he had the most unsettling look on his face. Not exactly angry, but strange. Excited, maybe. I unlocked the doors because I didn't want a confrontation, but every single cell in my body was screaming at me not to let him back in. He opened the back door, got in, and said, "Take me to the other place." "What other place?" I asked, my voice shaky. "Just drive, I'll tell you." I tried to stay calm. "You need to put it in the app. I can't take you anywhere unless you put it in the app." He didn't say a word. He just stared at me in the mirror. After a few agonizing seconds, he said, "Drive me back to where you picked me up." I didn't argue. I just started driving. The tension in the car was suffocating. I could feel him watching me the entire way. The hairs on my arms stood on end. When we got back to the strip mall, I parked under the same dim light where I'd picked him up. I was about to tell him to have a good night when he leaned forward and asked, "You ever wonder how you're going to die?" I froze. I laughed, but it was just a nervous, strangled sound. Not really something I think about. He didn't laugh. He just leaned back in his seat and, after a few seconds, said, "I think about it all the time." Then he opened the door and got out. He didn't close the door right away. He just stood there for a second, half in and half out of the car, then looked at me. "You picked the wrong guy up tonight." He shut the door and walked off into the darkness behind the bowling alley. I sat there for a minute, too shaken to move. Eventually, I drove home, constantly checking my mirrors. When I got there, I looked at the trip details again. The name had changed. It was blank, no name, no profile picture, no trip history. It was like the ride never happened at all. I contacted Uber support, but they told me the data was gone. They said it sometimes happens if the app crashes or if the rider cancels. But I know what I saw. I know that man got in and out of my car. And I know what he said. I've never seen him again, and I hope I never do. But every time I get a new request in a dimly lit parking lot or have a silent passenger in the back seat, I remember that night. I wonder what he meant, and if he ever found the right car. This happened a few years ago. I was 26 and flew to Washington, D.C. to visit my fiancée, Sarah. She was there for a graduation, and I came a week early so we could spend some time alone before her family arrived. We spent a whole day exploring the city. We saw the Lincoln Memorial, the White House, all the major sites. It was a blast. But by the end, we were completely exhausted and just wanted to get back to the hotel. We used the Uber app to call a ride. Sarah made the request on her phone while I sat down, ready for a nap. After about 10 minutes, a gray minivan pulled up. Sarah motioned to me that this was our ride, and we both got in. Looking back, this was our first mistake. We didn't check the driver's name or the car on the app. We just got in. The driver was a man in his 40s. He didn't say a word. No greeting, no confirmation, nothing. It was weird, but I was so tired I just figured he was one of those quiet drivers. I closed my eyes, just happy to be sitting down. A few minutes later, Sarah tapped my arm. Her hand was cold. I opened my eyes and saw a look of pure dread on her face. She didn't speak. She just pointed to her phone. I looked at the screen, and my heart sank. The map showed we were going the completely wrong way, the opposite direction from our hotel. Then, a new notification popped up. A message from our actual Uber driver. It said, "I've arrived." "Where are you?" My blood ran cold. The man in the driver's seat wasn't our driver. I kept my voice calm and said, "Hey, we've changed our minds. You can just drop us off here." He looked at me through the rearview mirror. His eyes were cold and he didn't say a word. He didn't even slow down. The silence was deafening, and every second felt like a minute. I knew his intentions weren't good, and I had to get us out of that car, right now. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small pocket knife. I flipped the blade open, making sure he could see it in the mirror. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. "I know you're not our driver," I said. "I don't know what you're planning, but I have a knife. If you don't pull this car over right now, I have no problem using it." His eyes widened for a split second. He quickly pulled the minivan over and unlocked the doors. Sarah and I scrambled out of the car as fast as we could. As soon as our feet hit the pavement, he sped off into the distance. We just stood there, catching our breath. Sarah was having a panic attack, and I was trying to process what had just happened. Our real Uber driver arrived a few minutes later, and we told him everything. That's when he told us something that sent shivers down my spine. He said there had been multiple instances of people posing as Uber drivers in that area. It was a known issue, especially for tourists. He told us people had gone missing and that we were incredibly lucky we noticed when we did. The fact that I was armed was probably the only reason he let us go. We made it back to the hotel safely and reported it to the police, but we never heard back. I have no idea if that man was ever caught, but it's a terrifying reminder that you can never be too careful. Always verify your ride. Always.